Chapter 545 News of Death. As the data was being transferred into Mo Fan's new phone, the referee asked the participants to take their positions. Bai Yulong led the way with the other two teammates into the barrier. Mo Fan slowly followed them, watching the progress bar on his phone. It was already at 90% and would be done within a minute. Mo Fan had lots of important messages in his phone. For example, the NSFW text and voice messages with Xinxia. It contained all his precious collections. On the other hand, Dongfang Lai and his teammates were already on the stage. Dongfang Lai's expression showed a slight change. Even though he still looked indifferent, he would occasionally glance in Mo Fan's direction. He and Zhou Shuming had been observing Mo Fan for quite some time. The guy had given them quite some surprises. He initially assumed the new student would only be able to rank around 20 to 30, yet it seemed like he had begun to pose a threat to the top people on the leaderboard. It was rare to see a new student with such strength. You somehow are matched against him this time. I haven't forgotten that you said you would defeat him in 1 or 2 rounds, Zhou Shuming said mockingly. Even though the teams were assigned through drawings, the system was still prone to cheating. Zhou Shuming would only need to pull some tricks behind the scene to be teamed up with whoever he wanted. With both of them on the same team, and 2 other strong students, they were basically unbeatable. Don't worry, if no one is in the way, my fiery fist will instantly knock him out, said Dongfang Lai with a confident smile. True that, since your innate talent is a rank higher than his double innate elements, agreed Zhou Shuming. Dongfang Lai, his innate talent, Mutated Fire Stars, is ranked 4th on the leaderboard. It makes his fire spells a tier higher, Bai Yulong said softly to his teammates. As one of the top students in the school, Bai Yulong was all too familiar with Dongfang Lai's strength. The guy was not only terrifying because of his cultivation, but his shocking innate talent. Any fire spell he cast would be a tier higher than its actual grade. In other words, if Dongfang Lai's current cultivation was at the 3rd intermediate level, his fiery fist would be level 4 instead. Even Mo Fan was surprised by Lai's innate talent. He had strengthened 29 of his fire stars, only 20 were left for him to cast the 4th tier fiery fist, but Dongfang Lai did not even need any soul essence to strengthen his stars. As long as his cultivation was at the 3rd level, his innate talent would simply improve the spell to the 4th level. The 3rd tier fiery fist was already strong enough to crush any other spells from the same level, let alone the 4th tier. It was likely that no defensive equipment would be able to resist it. His wind element is quite normal, but don't let him cast fiery fist at all costs, or else we will simply lose the match, emphasized Bai Yulong. I'll keep an eye on him. Mo Fan, the combination of your lightning and fire won't be any weaker than Dongfang Lai's spell, but he only needs to complete a star pattern to destroy our team, so, what's that thing on your shoulder? Bai Yulong was just about to go over his plan when he discovered a sudden flame rising on Mo Fan's shoulder. It looked like a burning ball at first, but as he took a closer look, he realized it was an adorable little fire creature. Oh, it's my contracted beast, Little Flame Bell, who gave you permission to come out here? Mo Fan speechlessly grabbed the little flame bell off his shoulder, like he was going to smack her ass. The little flame bell looked extremely wronged. She was obviously telling Mo Fan, I want to help Daddy fight your strong opponents. Since it's your contract summoning, it's fine to let her out first, but, is your contract summoning not grown yet? Said Bai Yulong. She's in the youth stage, said Mo Fan. Youth stage, is she here for show? Bai Yulong asked speechlessly. Although none of them were summoners, they did learn about summoning element in their classes. What could a contracted beast in the youth stage possibly do? I think you should summon your Swift Star Wolf instead. It's fine, I can summon the Swift Star Wolf with a basic spell, but I need to draw a star pattern to summon this girl, so it's better to let her out first, said Mo Fan. Mo Fan immediately realized that he was talking nonsense. The flame bell could simply come out from her contracted space without relying on the star pattern. The rules only allowed summoners to have 1 summoned beast out before the match started. If they planned to summon more, they would have to find the time once the referee declared the start of the battle. That sounds right, but try to summon the wolf as soon as possible to pin down our opponents, since if we let Dongfang Lai attack us, we are screwed. Captain, you've mentioned it more than 10 times. Damn you, better safe than sorry. Mo Fan scanned the crowd. Now that the fog had cleared, he could see lots of familiar faces around him. Mu Nujiao, whom he was planning to keep as his mistress, was here, I Tutu sitting beside her. It seemed like her brother had gone back to the army. The good student Ding Yumian was here too, with the tomboy Huang Xingli beside her, while the guy who self-claimed to be handsome was nearby, too. He was still bothering Ding Yumian, like usual. Zhao Manyan was here too, sitting fairly close to the stage. The guy had been gone for quite some time. Mo Fan almost forgot what he looked like. More shockingly, he did not have a new girlfriend sitting beside him. The guy whose bow tie he threw away was here, too. Mo Fan completely forgot what his name was. He was obviously on the same side as Zhou Shuming and Dongfang Lai, looking forward to seeing Mo Fan lose with a cold grin. His old friends Shen Mingxiao and Fatty Luo Song were here, too. Those two had been fairly close with one another after coming to the main campus, not sure if something beyond friendship had happened between them when they were running away from the ruined city. Even though his first wife had put her life at stake and used the ice crystal bow to save their worthless asses, they were still quite hostile toward him. Unfortunately, his strength had greatly surpassed theirs, so they would seldom appear in front of him. Prepare for battle. The data transmission finished right as the referee spoke. Mo Fan glanced at the main referee and saw that he was still clearing his thoughts. He quickly glanced at his phone when the messages popped up. Mo Fan was only going to take a quick look and throw the phone to I22. However, the first message that popped up on the screen happened to be related to Zhang Xiaohou. Did Haozi get promoted again, making it look so serious? Mumbled Mo Fan to himself. As he opened the message, he heard the referee snapping at him, telling him to put the phone away. However, as he opened the message, the single line of words caused him to tremble as if he were struck by lightning. His eyes went totally blank, as if he had just lost his soul. Chapter 546 Possessed by the Flame Bell. The undead are stirring up chaos around the ancient capital. The rescue team which Zhang Xiaohou was a part of has been lost. Lost. The words stabbed Mo Fan's heart like a cold sword. Even his blood stopped flowing. The chill penetrated his soul, sending him falling into the world of great despair, which he could not free himself from. Mo Fan stood blankly in place. The voice of the referee's countdown echoed around his ears, yet it felt like he could not hear anything. His mind was filled with the painful words. Zhang Xiaohou is dead? Is he really dead? Didn't that jerk tell me that with the wind element and earth element, even if everyone in the team was dead, he would still be alive? The place was covered in the same loud cheering. Even before the match started, their anticipation towards the spectacular showdown between the experts was enough for their blood to boil. Everyone had their own views of the possible outcome, and were trying to convince the others with facts. However, even as everyone was looking forward to seeing the epic battle between the top students in Pearl Institute, someone's mind had already gone blank. Bai Yulong soon discovered that something was not right. He quickly said to the main referee of the match, "Referee, wait." "What is it?" the referee asked sternly. "Humph, trying to run away? I've been waiting a long time for this day," said Dongfang Lai with a cold grin. The truth was, anyone could tell that something was not right. The participants were supposed to be standing in their positions on the stage, yet Mo Fan was still at the edge staring at his phone, his grip on it loosening. Since the countdown has already started, there's nothing else to be said. "Fight," said Zhou Shuming. Zhou Shuming had no personal grudge against Mo Fan, yet the girl he was fond of was living in the same apartment with him. Even though she was only his housemate, who would know what their relationship actually was, since they were spending lots of time together? It was not like Zhou Shuming had not tried to warn Mo Fan, yet the Demon King had never treated the school tyrant Zhou Shuming seriously. Meanwhile, Dongfang Lai was not interested in fighting over girls. He was more troubled over why the others had to compete fiercely for just one vote when this guy already had 3 votes in his hand. How was he worthy? The referee had already declared the match was going to begin. If they were able to officially defeat this person, who was a provisional candidate, he, Dongfang Lai, would also be worthy to represent the national team. Besides, against a guy like Mo Fan, he could simply crush him with a punch. Trying to put up an act. Even if you're planning to forfeit the match, I won't let you go without eating my fist. Dongfang Lai had long looked forward to this day. His fist instantly erupted in blazing flames. The overwhelming heat spread a meter away into his surroundings. Unreasonable. Dongfang Lai did not care if his opponents were not ready. Since they were already on the stage, and the referee had declared the start, he was simply going to vent all his accumulated anger during this match. He was going to let everyone know that the so-called provisional candidate was no match for him. The star pattern turned into a burning formation under Dongfang Lai's feet. Raging flames rose from the ground, making him look unstoppable. "Damn it! Didn't I tell you to wait?" snapped Bai Yulong furiously. "Don't stand in the way. It's between him and me." Dongfang Lai completely ignored Bai Yulang's existence. His eyes were fixed on Mo Fan. "Asshole, what are you doing?" yelled Bai Yulong furiously. Dongfang Lai was completely out of his mind. Mo Fan was obviously not in the mood to fight because something had happened, yet this ass was still trying to attack him. If Mo Fan did not put on his armor in time, it was likely that he would be burned to ashes before he recovered from the shock. This Dongfang Lai was not simply holding a grudge against him. He was trying to kill the guy. Even Zhou Shuming was shocked by the sight. He did throw oil onto the flames to provoke Dongfang Lai, yet he had no idea the guy's hatred toward Mo Fan was so strong. Could it be that one of the votes that Mo Fan had was supposed to be his? Zhou Shuming's speculation was on point. Councilman Zhu Meng used to be in charge of the enforcement union, hence the Dongfang family, which was mainly active in Hangzhou, was fairly close to Zhu Meng. Initially, his vote was supposed to go to Dongfang Lai. Zhou Shuming's thoughts were fairly simple. He had been trying to provoke Dongfang Lai to teach Mo Fan a lesson on his behalf. Little did he know that, even without his provocation, Dongfang Lai would not forgive Mo Fan, either. Dongfang Lai's flames rolled fiercely. His innate talent made his fiery fist much stronger than an ordinary fiery fist. As soon as his punch was thrown, everyone could immediately see the 9 fiery dragons coiling around the 9 pillars rising from the ground. The 9 dragons separated from the pillars and flew across the stage, intertwining with one another. The raging flames unleashed from them were so powerful that the stage, which was larger than a football field, was shaking vigorously. 4th tier fiery fist. Normally, the 9 fiery pillars would appear in fixed locations, but the 4th tier fiery fist turned the pillars into flame dragons, which swept forward like a shockwave. It easily devoured half of the dueling ground, raging in Mo Fan's direction. Mo Fan! Mo Fan! Dodge it! I Tutu, Mu Nujiao, and Zhao Manyan rose to their feet and yelled out in shock. What was Mo Fan doing? The flames were about to crush him. The little flame bell was still on Mo Fan's shoulder. She cried out in panic in Mo Fan's ears as the danger approached. Mo Fan's gaze was blank, yet it did not mean that he was completely unaware of what was happening around him. He knew that the referee had started the match. He heard Bai Yulong calling for a timeout. He also sensed the hatred in Dongfang Lai's attack, and the feeling of death approaching him. He seemed lost in his thoughts because he could not accept the truth, but more importantly, he was no longer in the mood to conceal his strength against his opponents. "Piss off, will ya?" Blue veins surfaced on his face as he uttered a thunderous roar, venting the anger from the bad news. The little flame bell immediately acknowledged Mo Fan's intentions, flowing into Mo Fan's body to possess him. The flames spread wildly, as if countless fiery demons were resting on his body. The power of the rose flame was on full display in Mo Fan's flames, bearing a stronger presence than Dongfang Lai's fires. Chapter 547 Mo Fan's True Strength. Fiery Fist. Same move, same magic, Mo Fan was trying to return the shameless Dongfang Lai's favor with the same attack. His decision seemed rather idiotic to everyone. Dongfang Lai's innate talent basically guaranteed he would dominate others of the same level. No one would dare try to overwhelm his spell head-on. His fiery fist was pretty much the strongest in the entire Pearl Institute, an unstoppable move. Even a whole team would be crushed by it, let alone a single person. If Mo Fan was seriously fighting back with fiery fist, even if he managed to survive it, he would still be turned into a cripple from the blast. After all, Dongfang Lai had attacked first. The fiery dragons had already surrounded Mo Fan from different directions. The crowd could only see the tails of the dragons as they rolled over his position. There was no chance they could see the minuscule Mo Fan within. Fire clouds rose into the air. Even Bai Yulong and the others not far away were forced to set up their defenses to protect themselves from the leaking energy of the fiery fist. Despite the distance, they could feel the overwhelming heat from the spell, let alone Mo Fan, who was in the middle of the fiery dragons. The crowd's eyes widened as the spell landed on its target. They did not see Mo Fan set up his defense right before he was devoured by the flames. Even though fire was his primary element, his resistance alone was not enough to make any difference. The burning ground left the crowd in bewilderment, but a few seconds later, another imperious presence of fire erupted within Dongfang Lai's flames. It was blazing red. It looked similar to the rose flame which Mo Fan always used, yet its color was brighter, like the color of blood. The crowd could vaguely see a figure seemingly fresh out of the furnace within the flames. The bloody flames began to lunge at the gray-red flames nearby. The shadow of the fist burst forward like an arrow firing through the fog and swept them away, returning a clear view to the place. There were neither fiery pillars nor fire dragons. The blood-colored flames accumulated on the tip of the punch and burst forward. Despite the large area of the gray-red flames, the bright red hue remained the same, penetrating everything in the way. It was like a meteor sweeping across the sky, a meteorite that had broken into the atmosphere. Perhaps the attack could no longer be called Fiery Fist, but Meteorite Fist instead. Mo Fan's roar slowly overtook the howling of the flames. The bright red flames engulfing his body had completely evaporated Dongfang Lai's fire. Yes, evaporated. When a different source of fire was so strong, it would simply crush the weaker flames. As Dongfang Lai's ash flame was evaporated by the rose flame, the entire dueling ground turned as red as blood. Mo Fan, who was standing right in the center, was still engulfed in flames. The color of his skin was inhuman. The strength of the Demon King was truly unstoppable. Zhao Manyan, who had been worried about Mo Fan, immediately recalled the scene where Mo Fan was possessed by the fiery sorceress. Mo Fan looked exactly the same now. If the fiery sorceress had the ability to possess him, did that mean the little flame bell could do the same thing, too? It's the little flame bell. It must be her. Being possessed by the little flame bell had boosted the power of his fire element. Dongfang Lai thought his fourth-tier fiery fist was able to dominate the scene, but little did he know, Mo Fan, who had earned the favor of the creature born from the fire calamity, was the real domina of fire. Dongfang Ming had messed with the wrong person. The meteorite fist was extremely fast. The sequence had only lasted for a few seconds, including Mo Fan being devoured by the fire, his rose flame evaporating the fires, and him throwing the meteorite fist at Dongfang Lai. Dongfang Lai simply stood there, completely dumbstruck. His eyes were filled with astonishment, fear, and disbelief. He had always been proud of his strength, but his fiery fist was simply quenched, his fiery dragons were punctured. Most terrifyingly, the person's meteorite fist was flying right at him, trailing a spectacular fire tail. The meteorite fist landed on Dongfang Lai's shield and armor. The two pieces of defensive equipment were completely destroyed by the overwhelming force. They broke into pieces, scattering on the ground. Dongfang Lai's body stiffened. The next second, he was blasted away by the force, as if a missile had just hit his abdomen, spitting out mouthfuls of blood in the air. A red arc was drawn in the sky as Dongfang Lai was sent flying, leaving the crowd speechless. In the end, Dongfang Lai was caught by the soft barrier and slid down it like a boneless puppet. His hair was disheveled as he landed on the ground. He struggled to his feet and raised his head. His gaze toward the man on fire was filled with pain, humiliation, astonishment, and disbelief. 1 or 2 rounds. Zhou Shuming was stunned and totally forgot to help his friend up. He clearly remembered Dongfang Lai's arrogant words. Wasn't this Mo Fan's innate talent just double innate elements? Why did he have such terrifying strength? Was this the true strength of a provisional candidate? The place went silent for a long time. No one could believe what they had just seen. They even doubted if the person lying on the ground and spitting blood out was actually the first rank in the fire school, Dongfang Lai. In the end, they all stared at Mo Fan with wide eyes, as if they were looking at a monster. The flames engulfing Mo Fan's body died away slowly. The crowd could not remember the force he was using, but it basically surpassed their understanding. A provisional candidate. That's the strength of a provisional candidate. If there was anyone among the crowd who doubted Mo Fan's capabilities, they no longer had the same thoughts. Mo Fan, Mu Nujiao, Zhao Manyan, and I Tutu, who were supposed to be the closest to Mo Fan, suddenly felt unfamiliar with the guy standing on the stage, or perhaps this was his true strength, which he had been hiding for months? Then, what was the reason that stopped him from hiding it any further? What was the sorrow showing in his eyes when the flames disappeared? Mo Fan slowly released his clutched fists. His new phone had been crushed into dust, and it slowly fell to the ground between the gaps of his fingers. Mo Fan took a deep breath, yet he never looked in Dongfang Lai's direction. Mo Fan, where are you going? The match is still on. While the crowd was lost in their astonishment, Mo Fan had already left the stage. Everyone was clueless what the guy was up to, as all they had toward him was respect and fear. Mo Fan ignored his teammates' calls, yet he finally collected his thoughts when Mu Nujiao and Zhao Manyan stopped him. What's going on? Asked Zhao Manyan. I'm going to the ancient capital, said Mo Fan firmly, after calming his thoughts. The restless undead. I know. What about the World College tournament? I'll deal with it after I come back. We'll go with you. Mo Fan shook his head. He understood Mu Nujiao and Zhao Manyan's willingness to help, yet it was his personal matter. He did not want to hold up their future because of it. Chapter 548. The vampires are considered undead, too. All of Pearl Institute was in an uproar. The news about the match that took place in the morning was spread in different versions around the school. Mo Fan, who was already a famous figure in the school, suddenly became a legendary figure. Many people were looking forward to seeing the outcome of the nomination preliminaries. However, those who were close with Mo Fan, including Mo Fan's teammates, knew that he would not show up in any of the upcoming matches, as he would soon be leaving Magic City for the scary ancient capital. Many people had moved away from the ancient capital, as countless lives had been lost to the undead due to the recent chaos. Some had described it as the worst calamity in 1,000 years, while some assumed that people were just being exaggerating. However, even the talented hunters who had returned from their investigations were not willing to mention anything. Even the proposer of the threat elimination strategy, Zhu Meng, had come to take command of the situation, a clear indication that the invasion of the undead was not just mere rumors. No one could actually explain what was happening at the ancient capital. Mo Fan was not going there to solve the scary mystery, but to look for a person, the friend that he grew up with, the buddy that came all the way to Donjing Lake just to look for him when he had turned into a demon. The 2 soul essences which the guy had bought after spending all his savings. Mo Fan still had them with him. It was true that the message on his phone was a notice of death. Yet, when his friend was involved, Mo Fan's principle was, he would not give up until he saw his friend in person, whether he was alive or dead. The sentence alone was not enough to declare his closest friend dead, nor was it enough to imply that his friend had disappeared forever from this world. They were both survivors of Bo City's calamity, hence they knew how precious lives were after the blood that was shed and the sacrifices that were made. Even if his friend was dead, even if his body no longer existed, he had to confirm the truth himself. If he was still alive in some unknown corner of the world, even if he was in the middle of the ocean of undead, he would clear the path and bring him back alive. It was a promise between them, and Zhang Xiaohou had already fulfilled it once. It was his turn now. The fog of darkness was looming over the modern city. Mo Fan suddenly recalled Ai Zhangtu's words as he was walking down the street. Battle mages always had their lives at risk when they fought against demon beasts. Zhang Xiaohou also shared the same risk, yet Mo Fan had never thought about it. He tried to convince Zhang Xiaohou to leave ever since the guy had decided to join the army, yet when he recalled the sight of Zhang Xiaohou bursting into tears with He Yu in his arms, as his elder brother, he knew that he would never be able to change Zhang Xiaohou's mind. Zhang Xiaohou had grown a lot over the past few years. He was calm at handling matters and able to stay collected when fighting against demon beasts. He was a brilliant battle mage, but he would always retain his kid-like behavior when Mo Fan was around, wanting to show off his achievements and completely obeying Mo Fan's words. As a matter of fact, Mo Fan knew that the guy only wanted to be acknowledged by him. The streetlight shone down upon Mo Fan, dragging his shadow across the ground. It was late at night, and only a few lights were on. The streets were quiet enough to hear the footsteps of the pedestrians walking by. The yellow streetlight was shining down upon quite a few things: the cars that were parked illegally on the streets, the clean roads, the lonely figures on the streets, and in the darkness where the light could not reach, a glamorous woman with a slender figure was standing on top of the streetlight. She was staring at the lonely man walking under the lights. Suddenly, the lonely figure stopped in his tracks. He slowly turned around and glanced at the darkness above the streetlight. "Don't forget, I too have the shadow element," Mo Fan called out to the strange woman with a smile. The woman began to panic, quickly turning around to flee into the dark. "Don't go," Mo Fan stopped her. The woman standing on the pole shuddered, yet she did not show herself. She was simply staring at Mo Fan with her glistening eyes. "I need your help," said Mo Fan. "Me?" answered a cautious, crisp voice. Mo Fan nodded. The woman in the dark seemed almost overjoyed, almost falling from the pole. "What do you need my help for?" Her voice was fairly clear in the silent night. "I'm going to the ancient capital. It's the territory of the undead, from what I know." Mo Fan did not continue his sentence. "Vampires are considered a type of undead," finished the woman. So I hope you'll come with me," said Mo Fan sternly. "You're my senior, you can just ask me to do anything." The woman seemed to be very happy. Her eyes were already glittering in excitement. "All right." Mo Fan felt strange when she called him a senior. Lu Ru slowly floated down to the ground. She was already a beauty before turning into a vampire. It was likely that the boys living on the same street had a crush on her. However, after turning into a vampire, her temperament underwent an obvious change. Her physique was no longer as skinny as before. She was currently in between the stages of youth and maturity, innocent, yet seductive. Her pleasant scent would simply hook a man's soul away without noticing, wisping up from her youthful skin. The expected lifelessness of a vampire was missing. Instead, it added a hint of nobility to Lu Ru, who had once been an ordinary girl. She was charming. Mo Fan had to admit that she was a lot more attractive than before. When the thought of the woman occasionally sneaking into his room, lying beside him and pressing her red lips to his neck, crossed his mind, he could sense his blood vessels pulsing. "What's happened to you?" Lu Ru asked softly as she stepped closer. Nothing. By the way, are there any vampires bullying you around here? If so, just let me know." Mo Fan quickly switched the topic to hide his embarrassment. "There used to be some, but they do not dare to come into this area lately." "Why is that? Is a strong vampire controlling this area?" asked Mo Fan, his eyebrows raised. Lu Ru glanced at Mo Fan and blinked innocently. It's you?" asked Mo Fan in astonishment, as he collected his thoughts. Lu Ru let out an embarrassed grin. Normally, rookie vampires would be bullied by their seniors, especially someone like Lu Ru, who looked like the kind girl next door. Lu Ru did get harassed quite often at the start, and the gentle girl had tried her best to forbear. Yet she realized that it just spurred them on to do more. Left with no choice, she was forced to use violence. Since then, she had discovered that her strength was fairly remarkable among the vampires.